And we are live. It's Dr. J here in the house with Evan Brand. Evan, what's going on, man? How's your Monday going?
It's going pretty good. We were looking at some trending digestive issues, and apparently diarrhea is beating out constipation as a trending gut issue. It's funny because when I think about all the clients we work with, I feel like constipation is extremely common, but at least according to the internet, more people are suffering with diarrhea. And the interesting thing is, they don't know what to do besides go to the pharmacy and get some over the counter anti-diarrheal medication. And those
Yeah.
people will live on that. They'll live on
Oh, yeah.
Imodium AD anti-diarrheal medication and just think that that's normal and just, oh, I just take my medication. Or even if you get a prescription anti-diarrhea medication, like, oh, that's just my medicine. It's like, no, you're missing the boat.
100%. I mean, the question becomes, well, why do we have diarrhea? What's going on? So typically diarrhea, there's a hallmark of some level of inflammation in the intestinal tract, and your body is trying to flush out whatever that inflammation is from. That inflammation can be from food allergens, gluten, dairy, processed sugar. It can be from sugar feeding bacteria or a yeast overgrowth. And then that yeast overgrowth can cause diarrhea, or that bacterial overgrowth can cause diarrhea. We see it very frequently in hydrogen dominant SIBO. We have a lot of bacteria that are bad that are in our intestinal tract, and they're making a lot of hydrogen gases. Those hydrogen gases can accelerate motility and cause things to flush out faster, essentially diarrhea. So the interesting thing is, though, I see sometimes inflammation from candida, like the mycotoxins that are produced, or even the methane produced from bad bacteria as well. Sometimes it can slow people up. So I see people go from, the faster, the diarrhea side to the constipation side. Usually when things are more acute, usually diarrhea tends to be what manifests. When things are more chronic, a lot of times you can see more constipation. But especially when people have more inflammation in the intestinal tract, we will see more diarrhea, especially if there's any irritable bowel disease, whether it's ulcerative colitis or Crohn's or some kind of microscopic colitis. We'll see it, of course, in hydrogen dominant SIBO. We'll see it. People that have very severe food allergens, we'll see it, of course, like the extreme level of gluten sensitivity, where we have celiac disease. We'll definitely see it because there's a lot of inflammation in those microvilli and the intestines are getting worn down. So it's really a mixed bag. I'll see it on both sides of the fence. The question is, number one, why is it there? Inflammation. Where's the inflammation coming from? Now we have to become an inflammation detective. We talked earlier that mold could potentially cause diarrhea as well. So we got to look at all vectors, not just one thing. Number two, we have to say, well, what foods do we have to adjust so we can slow down the bowels? Because if the bowels continue to move fast, well, we're going to not be able to reabsorb our electrolytes, and we're not going to be able to digest and assimilate our fatty acids, amino acids, and our vitamins and minerals, which create more problems like thyroid and adrenal and mood and cognitive issues. So it becomes a vicious cycle where diarrhea can spiral into all kinds of other issues, including weight loss too. So if you have an irritable bowel disease and you have weight loss, we have to get the diarrhea under control.
Yeah, well said about the other points, because I'm thinking here, your average person is focusing just on the main symptom. It's like, okay, I've got loose stool. I don't know why. I'm going to go take my anti-diarrheal medication and I'll just live on that. But they're missing the fact that if you're not absorbing your nutrition, if everything's moving too fast, even if you're eating a good template, good fats, good veggies, whatever you're eating, it's not going to matter. Those amino acids will never be used to make your brain chemicals, to make your hormones. So now you've got hormonal problems. So then you go on a medication for that. And then you're depressed and anxious. So you go on a medication for both of those issues. I was looking at drugs.com the other day because I was doing some research. I'm building out this course on the gut. And I was wanting to talk about what are the best-selling drugs. And the number one best-selling drug right now in the world is a antipsychotic medication. And I thought, okay, wow. And then you go down the list of number 2, number 3, number 4 drugs, and it's all related to mood and or autoimmunity. Like number 1 drug in the world, Abilify. How many people that are taking this antipsychotic drug have gut issues that they don't even realize are causing their mood issues. And then the doctor never brings it up and they put them on this drug. And then you got number two. So let me go a little further with this drug conversation. Number two, you've got Nexium. Nexium being your conventional medication to treat GERD, to create a lower stomach acid issue. So that's number two drug. And then number three drug, best-selling drug in the world, is you've got Humira, which is treating ulcerative colitis, psoriatic arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, psoriasis. They even use it in Crohn's disease. So our guts as a society are pretty screwed. And you can just look at these drug numbers to confirm it.
100%. Yep. I totally agree. Now let's just kind of go over symptoms, right? So diarrhea, we're going to see looser and watery stools. We're going to see a cramping. We may see blood in the stool. So if we're having diarrhea and we have irritable bowel disease, where there's Crohn's or ulcerative colitis, or we have hemorrhoids or anal fissure, or maybe even ulcerations in the stomach from H. pylori, we may see blood in the stool. We may see mucus in the stool, and the mucus is going to be from the inflammation in the intestines. Of course,
could be hemorrhoids.
Yeah, you could be. Yeah.
Yeah, you could always have hemorrhoids too. Generally more with constipation.
I mentioned that. I mentioned hemorrhoids, anal fissure. Okay. Yep. Ulcerative colitis, Crohn's, also ulcers from H. pylori in the stomach. Yep. All those things are potentially concerning. And again, the big concern with diarrhea is going to be the dehydration and the mineral loss. This is how people die from diarrhea in third world countries where there's, really poor sanitation. They get sick, they get an infection, and they just lose all their electrolytes. They go into heart failure because they're just losing all their electrolytes. Now, in the US, not a big deal. We just get an IV in the meantime, which will prevent anything really bad from happening. Or people do something like Pedialyte, which we can do natural forms of electrolytes, but we have to fix the diarrhea. So there's things like the BRAT diet, which can be helpful, which is banana, rice, apples, toast. In our line, we don't like the toast because it's gluten, and that can potentially create more issues. Or we don't like the rice either, because a lot of times gluten sensitivity, that can be a problem. But the bananas or applesauce or kind of an intro GAPS or cooking food up really well, making it easy on the intestines can be great. We may even throw some activated charcoal to bind up whatever those irritants are, as long as we get to the root cause of the irritants, meaning if it's food, we fix that. If it's an infection, you may not be able to fix it right away, but we'll at least get to that. If there's a bacterial issue, we may look at adding calming nutrients or specific gut bacteria, probiotics, to kind of calm things and chill things down, which can really help with a lot of that increased intestinal motility and that hypersensitivity. So the Bifido and Lactobacillus species, have a lot of studies proven on those to be very helpful at decreasing a lot of the bad bacteria and calming down that hyper motility in the intestinal tract.
We like aloe too. We'll use some aloe extracts. A lot of people will just go to a local grocery store and buy like aloe juice, but a lot of times those have added sugar, and added sugars can create a problem with your gut. But when we say aloe, we're talking, I don't want to use the term pharmaceutical grade, because pharmaceuticals are garbage. They have a lot of binders and corn and gluten and other stuff. So let's just say professional grade. We'll use professional grade aloe clinically. And this is going to be typically extract, meaning you may take 200 pounds of aloe, convert it to 1 pound of extract, and then you encapsulate that. And we've seen crazy things on lab results. I remember one girl who had blood in the stool. We got her stool test back, and she had a calprotectin level of over 1,000, which is just absolutely astronomically high inflammation in the gut. And I was like, okay, well, we've got some answers. There were some infections present, but in the meantime, we just wanted to hurry up and get inflammation down while working on the bugs. And so we did some aloe extract. And then after 6 weeks, we did a retest because the inflammation was so scary high. We retested sooner than average. And then we had already got it down to below 100. So aloe is just super, super amazing for these gut issues. Even if you don't know what's going on, it can be a good Band-Aid. And I would say far better than the conventional Band-Aids of like Imodium AD and those kind of things.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. And we always want to look at, what the root cause is. All right. That's really, really, really important. And so the food stuff's very important. The inflammation stuff's very important. The bacteria, good bacteria is helpful. Why? Well, clinically, when we add in certain high-dose lactobacillus or bifidobacter species, the research shows that can actually help decrease Clostridium, decrease E. coli, decrease Salmonella or Shigella or Pseudomonas. And a lot of those bacteria can drive a lot of the diarrhea to begin with, especially things like Shigella or E. coli could easily be from food poisoning, right? And that we know a lot of these good bacteria can also be anti-inflammatory. So if our intestines are really inflamed, they can really modulate and calm down that inflammation, maybe decrease that immune response or decrease the calprotectin, which is a result of the inflammation in the gut, which is helpful. And so that's really, really awesome. Now, fecal transplants have been used. I've seen, it's just the question is, where are you getting the fecal transplants from? Does the other person have an infection that you may be adding into your intestinal tract? I've seen people get better from fecal transplants, and also some get very, very sick. So it all depends upon who the donor is, how is that spun out, how it's cleaned up, and all that stuff matters. You know, if you're just going for a random friend and then you're not having them tested, you don't know where they're at, they may be giving you an infection.
I don't think it's necessary. Yeah, I think you and I have talked about this before. I'm pretty sure we talked about it on a podcast, but maybe not. But there have been cases of people that have significant personality changes after they get a fecal transplant. Like there was a story of a woman who all of a sudden after her fecal transplant, it cured her C. diff, but then all of a sudden she had very, very strong cravings for French fries. And then all of a sudden she started to just want to listen to nothing but jazz music. It sounds like I'm making this up, but I promise I'm not. And then she found out it was an older guy, an African-American donor, and he loved French fries and jazz music. And this lady wanted to listen to jazz music and eat French fries. Just weird personality changes. If you just do research on personality or mood shift fecal transplant, you'll have people that will start to get fat because there's a belief that some of these, I guess you would just say, we'll just call them communication pathways inside of these microbes could change it to where a fat person could get skinny and a skinny person could get fat by transplanting someone else's fecal matter. So it just seems
there is the second brain. There's the second brain, right? The enteric nervous system, which is the same amount of neurons that are in your spinal cord and your central nervous system, your brain and spinal cord, same amount of neurons are in your gut. In that enteric nervous system. So there's a reason why, Michael Gershon, gastroenterologist at Columbia, wrote the book, The Second Brain. So it makes sense that the microbes in your gut may play a role in your nervous system and change different things about you, for sure. That's why the more we reduce inflammation naturally, the healthier you're going to be. The healthier you're going to be able to think. Your nervous system perceives threat. It takes input in. It allows your body to now create output. So the better we have that input to output with our nervous system being cleaner, the better we're going to be able to respond and adapt to different situations. And especially when it comes to the intestines, well, that's where we absorb all our nutrition, and our body needs these nutrients to run metabolically. So it's vitally important. So I think we hit a lot of the core stuff. So food allergens are going to be a big one. Gluten, refined sugar, our junky omega-6 fatty acids from refined processed vegetable oils are not going to be the best. Of course, casein and dairy can be an issue. Some people can tolerate butter, though, which is pretty low casein, low lactose. Ghee may be a better option, or even none if you're really autoimmune sensitive. Nuts and seeds may be fine, people on a paleo template, but we may need to cut those out, at least initially if we have a lot of diarrhea. Maybe nightshades as well because of the alpha-solanine component there. And we may need to really cut out a lot of the fiber, or at least decrease a lot of the fiber by cooking, whether it's cutting down the fermentable carbohydrates, the FODMAPs, because that may be driving up a lot of the hydrogen gases, going more low FODMAP carbohydrate. It could also be cooking those foods a lot better, steaming them, sauteing them, using an Instapot, definitely peeling them, mashing them really helps. Because if our gut's more inflamed and we're giving more harder to digest carbohydrates in there, that could be an issue.
Artificial sweeteners, let's throw those in too, because we've had some people where their diet's dialed in, but somehow artificial sweeteners have crept into their life in the form of like chewing gum or even mints, like breath fresheners. A lot of times people just think, oh, this is like my favorite gum, and they don't even pay attention to the label. You've got sorbitol, you've got mannitol, you've got aspartame, of course. Some of these sweeteners can cause gut issues. And so very, very, very easy, but some people just don't think about it. You have 100% organic diet, and here you are eating Trident, which is loaded with just garbage sweeteners. So
we also know that things like, I think it's Splenda, that's like the glucose molecule with 3 molecules of chloride attached to it. we know those have an effect on the gut bacteria, right? And we know if we negatively impact the gut bacteria, we can see increase in motility or we could see a decrease. So if you're on artificial sweeteners, that's going to be one of the first things, like taking that Splenda out of there. I think it's going to be really important.
Let's go into the infections. I mean, because
Mhm.
this is, I think, where most of the stuff happens. You covered the low hanging fruit, like potentially low FODMAP, more autoimmune approach, cooking things, getting away from your raw vegetables. I haven't eaten a salad in I don't know how long. I just don't feel very good with leafy greens. It doesn't tear my gut up like it used to, but there was a point where if I would eat leafy greens, it would just trigger my
If
gut.
you saute it though, or break it down in some fat or cook it up, how do you do? Do you better with it?
I do perfect.
Yeah. So cooking, it's really helpful. People, it's important people to remember that cooking is pre-digestion, right? You have a lot of people in the vegan raw community. They're like, oh, well, if you cook it, you're destroying the nutrition. Not really, because a lot of times the accessibility to the nutrients is decreased with all that fiber. Now, if you can tolerate a salad here or there, great. But if you can't, we know that at least steaming those foods is actually going to increase a lot of the bioavailability. If you go look on I think it's myfooddata.com, that the food pyramid people, the government, they have data on raw broccoli versus steamed broccoli. And steamed broccoli actually has more nutrients because we're making it more bioavailable because we're decreasing some of that fiber, making it easier to handle and digest and break down. Now you also add some fat on there too, right? We know there's studies looking at olive oil on top of your salad that you actually increase the bioavailability of the nutrients in the salad when you add fat, because that fat helps kind of pull in those fat soluble nutrients better. And so having fat on your steamed veggies actually is very helpful for the absorption.
Yeah, honestly, who likes to sit down at the table and just eat raw broccoli? I mean, it's not even appetizing. I think from just an intuitive eating standpoint, you would know steamed broccoli with some good butter and some pink salt on top is definitely more palatable, and there's more nutrition in there. So of course it's going to be more palatable.
Exactly. I had a conversation with Jimmy Moore a few years back. He's like, yeah, I just look at my vegetables as a vesicle to get extra fat in my body. I'm like, yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
Yep.
Absolutely.
All right.
And most kids hate vegetables, man, because they were just brought up with either having the vegetables cooked to death, or there wasn't a good, bit of sea salt or high quality fat on there. So you want your kids to get vegetables, just kind of start off with things that are maybe some green beans, put some butter on there, some sea salt, start with something like that. Get the salt, good quality salt with full spectrum minerals like Redmond's or Himalayan pink salt, and then add some good quality fats. And if your kid's sensitive, you can go to ghee. And if they're still sensitive after that, you can go to coconut oil too, or some kind of a beef tallow. That works great.
Yep. All right. Let's get into the bugs though, because I think this is like once you get beyond diet, once you get rid of the artificial sweeteners, once you get rid of antibiotics, once you get rid of all the drugs damaging your gut, that we could do a whole hour on medication side effects and diarrhea being a side effect of some type of pharmaceutical. But let's focus on the bugs. You mentioned H. pylori earlier. This is huge. Can you talk about the mechanism? Why would H. pylori set this cascade to end up causing diarrhea?
Yeah, I've seen it cause diarrhea and constipation. But number one, it creates inflammation. We know, especially if we have extra virulence factors like Vir-D or VAC-A or OIP-A, there's different virulence factors, which are a sign of cytotoxic proteins are being produced by the H. pylori. It means more inflammation, more chance of gut inflammation, clinically, stomach cancer, those kind of things. But we see lots of people with H. pylori, they're not going to develop into that per se, but we just know with those virulence factors there's more inflammation. We know H. pylori will also mess up the digestive cascade. It will decrease stomach acid. It will decrease stomach acid in the gut, making your gut more alkaline, making it harder to break down protein, making it harder to get the acid going to kind of start that domino cascade for good digestion. So without enough stomach acid, it's harder to ionize minerals. It's hard to get our bile being produced and our pancreas being produced, because hydrochloric acid and acids are that kind of the first domino to get our digestion rolling. So that can make a big impact on breaking down fats, ionizing minerals. And then of course we need minerals to make more hydrochloric acid. We need our sodium, our chloride, our zinc. We need those minerals to make more acids. So then it's like a vicious cycle, because then you don't have the minerals to make the acids. And then you have less acid as a result. And then you're more stressed. And the more your sympathetic nervous system's on fight or flight, the harder it is to produce our digestive juices. So then the problem gets worse and worse over time. That's the issue.
Well, and that's all well said. Let's add this on top of the mix too, is when you have the low HCl, now you're not actually going to be killing off the things you're getting exposed to. So let's say you were infection free before, now you're sexually active with a partner, or even just kissing, sharing cups, sharing spoons. I mean, it's quite easy to pass H. pylori between each other. This is why Justin and I often end up working with the entire family, because the husband may pass it to the wife, and the wife shares the cup with the kids or feeds her the spoon, and then the kid gets the H. pylori. But now when you get exposed to viruses, you get exposed to bacteria, different parasites, other infections can be piled on. So H. pylori just basically reduced your defensive shield, so to speak. Now your shields are down, and these bacteria and parasites that normally would get killed off in a low pH, super acidic environment. Now, if the stomach is, let's say, closer to a 4 in pH, it's headed towards more alkaline. Now, all of a sudden, these pathogens are like, hey, look at this guy's gut. Perfect place to live. Not enough acid to kill me. I'm going to stay right here. And then those infections start feeding on the undigested food, and the food was undigested because of the H. pylori reducing the digestive fire. So then you see how throwing the infection piece on top of it, you really, really spin out of control. And that's what led to me losing 25 pounds. And it took me a while to recover from that.
Exactly. So we kind of have to have like a working philosophy on how to deal with the diarrhea. So we got to look at the food first. We got to look at the nervous system, because if we're perceiving lots of stress, that can have a big impact. So we have to, eat in an environment that's going to favor parasympathetic nervous system output. We can meditate before a meal, hypnosis. We can do things to kind of relax our nervous system, EFT tapping. We can listen to some binaural beats. Things to just kind of relax our nervous system is going to be really helpful. Of course, following my 6 R's, getting the bad foods out. The foods that we're eating, we're going to work on cooking them better. We're going to add in enzymes. We're going to add in acids. If our stools are floating, right, we may add in bile salts to help with the breakdown on the fats. If we have a lot of diarrhea, we may want to give some activated charcoal away from food to kind of slow down the motility and to kind of calm things down. We may want to give some natural ginger or some aloe or some slippery elm or some L-glutamine. Depending on what's happening, how bad things are, we may want to do an elemental diet. We may even want to look at fasting. If food's really driving the issue, fasting may be a beneficial kind of modality. We may want to add in, and one last thing, we may want to add in probiotics sooner instead of maybe that 5th R. We may want to add it sooner and put it in with the 3rd R, because probiotics can help with the inflammation and kind of calming down the gut. So this is really important because there's a lot of art in here, and it's not like a set protocol. So this is where bringing a clinician is very important. If the low-hanging fruit's not really working well, this is where reaching out to myself or Evan may be really important if you're already having a hard time or you're not the typical case.
Yeah. So I just wanted to play devil's advocate for a minute. Yes. And be the person who's saying, oh my God, are you serious? You're telling me I have to meditate. I have to, calm my nervous system down before I eat. Like, do you know how busy I am? And that's just ridiculous. Why should I have to meditate? Well, think about, so that's the devil's advocate. And then I'm going to answer my own devil's advocate, which is, yeah, of course you need to meditate or do something to calm your nervous system, because think about the last time you were out camping. Hopefully everyone listening has been camping before. You're out sitting in the woods by a campfire. You've got your friends and family with you. All you hear is the sound of the birds. And maybe if you're by a creek, you hear the sound of a creek. It's relaxing. It's calming. Hopefully people aren't just playing on their phones in the woods. You're sitting there. You're by the fire. You're cooking. That is a very, very parasympathetic inducing setting, right? You're calming the nervous system. And that would have been the everyday life of our ancestors. It wouldn't have been some special outing where you throw the sleeping bag in the trunk and you head out to the campground. No, that would have just been daily life, just sitting by the fire, talking, socializing, eating. Now, instead of the socializing at the lunch table, if you're an employee, you might just be sitting by yourself in some lunchroom and you're like scrolling on your phone. I call it the scrolling bowl. Like if my wife and I go to Chipotle, we call it, we say, oh, we got a scrolling bowler. This is your person who they have their bowl of meat and rice, and they're just, force feeding them while they're scrolling on their phone. It's like, that is the worst habit ever. Here you are looking at, I don't know, bad emails or social media or somebody else's new car or new house. and you're expecting to tell your nervous system, hey, it's time to digest. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, try to find some music or maybe say meditation or prayer, whatever you got to do to kind of relax your brain. Maybe it's listening to our podcast. We can kind of induce some parasympathetic nervous system response with some of our conversation, whatever that takes to kind of get you in that place. That's awesome. Getting some digestive enzymes and acids or bile could be really helpful. And just kind of starting off like that. Just make sure you're not eating while you're in the car, and you're not eating really fast in between meetings. Try to really make sure you have that time scheduled. So when someone's like, oh, well, can I speak to you this time? Well, no, I got a meeting, right? Because you're not going to sacrifice that time off your meal. That's really important that we create that good environment.
Can we talk about other infections? So H. pylori is huge. We talked about how that can lead to other infections because it's reducing the digestive fire. Now all these parasites can thrive. So let's go into parasites a little bit and diarrhea, because I suffered tremendously with Cryptosporidium, which is a waterborne parasite. The CDC actually did a big news article this summer about, oh my God, watch out for the swimming pools. Crypto is there. And then of course, Giardia is the other common waterborne parasite, and those both will just wreck you in terms of diarrhea.
Yeah. So the more stressed we are, the more our immune system the more like our defense system, right? Think of IgA as that immune mucosal barrier, like the old Star Trek episodes, they'd put the force fields up and then the laser beams would bounce off of it, right? Think of IgA as that protective barrier that's going to bounce back the parasites and the infectious critters, right? And then things like Campylobacter, our food poisoning kind of bacteria, Campylobacter, Shigella, E. coli, Salmonella, these things could create diarrhea, especially acutely, could last long-term. Infections, like you mentioned, H. pylori, which as soon as we start decreasing our stomach acid and the more we increase our sympathetic nervous system response, our adrenals go into overdrive, the more chance that things that are exposed in our body, whether it's food or water, whatever, that they could gain a foothold. Whether it's crypto or blasto or giardia or entamoeba histolytica or D. fragilis, whatever, or worms, right? Whatever that infection is could gain a foothold and could start creating inflammation. And then it's that downward cycle, because the more inflammation, the more the digestion gets poor. The more the digestion gets poor, the more the nutrients are harder to digest. The more the nutrients become depleted, the more our stress handling system gets depleted, the more stress. And then it just keeps on feeding. It's a positive feedback loop of destruction.
Well, let's point this out. Diarrhea could be good if you got exposed to some type of pathogen acutely, and the body's trying to get rid of it. But the problem is, I don't really find many cases. I don't know if it's just due to people being on technology and the nervous systems are so wrecked. Like you mentioned, it's everything, right? It's always a question of why is this happening? But I don't really find many cases where someone says, hey, I went to such and such restaurant and got sick and immediately got over it. A lot of times these issues are becoming chronic. Now, are there people getting acute diarrhea and then they just don't reach out to us clinically and they're fine? Yeah, maybe so. But a lot of times we're seeing people that they went to this trip or this country or wherever, and then they've stayed sick. And then the question becomes, well, why? And I think it's all of it. It's the stress, it's the nervous system piece, it's the pesticides, it's the herbicides damaging the good bacteria. So now there's not as much reserve of good bacteria. There's what about if the person doesn't have a gallbladder and now they don't have as much of that concentrated bile to digest fat? So they're just always in a state of malabsorption. What about if they got their appendix out? There's some talk now of the appendix being a reservoir for beneficial bacteria in the case of diarrhea. Yep. That the appendix can go boom and release these stored beneficial microbes to help calm it down. And you've got so many people that have had their appendix removed already. So I think it's 5 or 6 big factors that are causing people to not just have these acute episodes anymore. It's becoming chronic.
100%. Yep. 100%. There's a lot of variables along with it. So I think it's really, really important. Anything else you want to address regarding food or diet or lifestyle or anything else, something that was?
Antimicrobials can be key. You may have to do it in reverse order. You talked about glutamine and slippery elm and marshmallow, and we hit a lot of the calming herbs. And this is, you mentioned it's an art, and this is kind of where that art can come into play, because depending on the case, we may have to do some of those calming, soothing herbs just in the beginning to get things calm enough to where we can even proceed with doing antimicrobials like your berberine which has been
100%.
shown to be very, very helpful in these IBS type situations. You could kind of call it SIBO, SIFO, IBS, diarrhea. I mean, it's all in the same mess of a gut problem.
Yep, exactly. So there's different herbs that we use. We have different lines of products, berberine or golden seal or high dose oil of oregano or clove or artemisia or mimosa pudica, various herbs. Obviously, binders at higher doses could be helpful. And then, of course, probiotics, whether it's bifido or lactobacillus or Saccharomyces boulardii or various spore biotics. There's different ones that we may use depending on what's going on. So a lot of different things we have to line up. So get the food right, get the digestion right, kind of get the gut more stable. If it's not stable, then we may have to reach out to someone to kind of get those next steps lined up. And if it's not going away after a few days, we definitely have to get some testing to look at what kind of infection could be hanging out.
Yep. So stool and urine are going to be the most common that we're going to look at. Blood testing, I mean, could sometimes play a role in this if we're trying to look at like HSCRP, like systemic inflammation markers, things like that. Liver enzymes, if we think something's not right from a detox perspective, but stool and urine are probably top one and top two things we're going to run on you. And just to be clear, these are going to be far above the standard of care. This is not just like your stool sample from your doctor's office. Those are typically outdated. There's a lot of false negatives. The reference ranges are not good. So we're doing much, much more advanced testing. And once we get the data, then we know what to do, because could you just go and take aloe and probiotics and you're fine? Maybe. Can you just go straight to oregano and try to kill whatever you think you picked up? Maybe. But there's a lot of tools out there, and you're great at analogies. So I'll try to mimic your skill at analogies. You're not just going to go out into the garage to start some type of project on your car and just grab a random wrench and think, okay, this wrench may be the one to take these lug nuts off the wheels. It could be this one over here. It could be that tool over there, but I'm just going to grab this one and see if it works. That's the same thing as going and trying to pick whether you're going to do aloe or oregano or probiotics or enzymes or charcoal. It's like there's so many things out there, but you shouldn't just grab for one and hope it sticks. You really want to have a plan. And how do you get that plan? Is you get the data, and that's either clinical information, laboratory information, or both.
Yep, 100%. I totally agree. You want to look at what needs to be addressed and then use the appropriate tool, right? Versus grab the tool and see what you can do with it, right? Is the tail wagging the dog, or is the dog wagging the tail, right? Cause then effect, not effect and cause. I think that's very important. All right. So anyone that's diving in deep, if you're appreciating this content, put our comments down below, give us a thumbs up, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell button so you get notifications of our great content coming your way. And if anyone wants to dive in deeper and reach out to evanbrand.com, and well as Justin, myself, Dr. J, justinhealth.com, there'll be a little schedule link you can click down below. And some of the lab tests that we're talking about are like the GI map or the organics or a SIBO breath test. These are some of the common tools that we'll look at, and feel free, and we'll put those links down below if you want to dive in deeper with them. But it's really important. You want to get this information and then be able to apply it clinically. So you may order these things and it may not make sense to you. So that's where the clinical experience comes in next step. Anything else you want to say here, Evan?
I just forgot to mention viruses. Maybe we'll do a whole nother hour one day on just viruses, but your typical
adenovirus is a big one.
Yeah. Adenovirus, you've got the rotavirus. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that can trigger these things. So once again, that's something you can look at. We actually can identify certain viruses on the stool, which is really cool to see, because if you catch somebody in an acute episode, you can look and say, boom, here's the virus that we think that's triggering it. And even if there's not a change in protocol, it's at least great to be able to prove it.
Yep, it's cool. And some of the antiviral things we'll do is high dose monolaurin or high dose olive leaf. Either way, giving some binders to kind of soak things up can also be helpful. Hope everyone enjoyed today. And if you did, click down below to get more intel. And Evan, great chatting with you, man. You have a great day.
You take care.
Hey, we'll talk soon. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.